So the first video of 2024, we'll be talking about Season 2 of Marvel's What If. I talked about What If a couple of years back when it debuted, episodic reviews, but this time I didn't really have the energy to do so since they were releasing one episode per day for his 9-episode arc, and timing didn't really agree with me, so I thought I'd condense my thoughts in this video for you guys. I'm going to try my best to cover as much as I can, but there's a lot of ground to cover here. And for anyone who still has yet to catch up on it, we are going to go into full-on spoilers. Mostly I'm going to cover the broad strokes, not going to be able to cover everything. I was actually quite impressed with Season 1 of What If. For a show that's animation, I personally found it to be very good quality. I don't know how everybody else feels, but the general vibe that I get is that most people do like the show. Admittedly, I was kind of nervous on how they would follow up on Season 1. Very happy to report, though, that they did it again with Season 2. Ending very differently from what I expected. In this case, with its execution, I thought it was done very effectively. Each episode, as you expect, has some kind of a cold opening, and then it has the narration of Jeffrey Wright's character, the Watcher, who is for all intents and purposes the god of the Marvel Universe. The first episode starting off with what if Nebula was part of Nova Corps, and how Ronan's ships try to take over Xandar, but in a last-ditch effort, the entire planet is covered by a shield by Nova Corps. Along the way, while Nebula is trying to uncover a certain mystery, she discovers the corruption of Nova Corps, but she manages to throw a wrench into their plans, getting various appearances from Howard the Duck even, as well as Korg from Thor Ragnarok. I found it kind of neat seeing how Nebula would have turned out had she not been brainwashed by her father Thanos. More or less kind of feels like the Gamora that we knew in Endgame, and also Guardians Volume 3. Then the next episode is Peter Quill attacking the Avengers in the late 1980s. Hank Pym, voiced by Michael Douglas as Ant-Man. Lawrence Fishburne returning as his character from Ant-Man and the Wasp, becoming the Goliath. Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier, though he's portrayed in this one as still a loose cannon, given that he's still under the mind control effects by Hydra. Hank at this point is still reeling from the loss of his wife and brings his daughter Hope along, who manages to talk Peter down off the ledge and convinces him to stand up to his father. I thought she was actually somehow going to unite with him and have they have some kind of a fear or resentment towards their own fathers. But no, she does what I think that most of us were hoping for, that he would stand up to Ego and face the ugly truth about him. Then in the next episode, we see Happy Hogan become a big purple monster and saving Christmas at Avengers Tower, which for me was basically Marvel's version of the first Die Hard. Sam Rockwell returns as Justin Hammer. I was actually really happy to see him return because his role in Iron Man 2 felt like he was kind of wasted. There was so much more they could have done with him. It was cool to see him return, even if it was just in animation form. I really like seeing Happy Hogan actually get to be a heroic presence for once, since he's kind of in the background as the bodyguard. He accidentally gets injected with the gamma radiation that Bruce creates, and he turns into the big purple monster. And Kat Dennings returns as Darcy. Still not that big a fan, but in this one, she's probably the most bearable. That's all I'll say. And I have to mention, Josh Keaton is the voice of Captain America here. You guys might know him as the voice of Spider-Man in The Spectacular Spider-Man. He's actually quite good at sounding a lot like Chris Evans. Obviously, they couldn't get everybody to come back from the original cast. But I also think it serves a purpose in that this is a different variation, Iron Man and Captain America. This is the multiverse that we're in, so that doesn't surprise me at all. Then there's the episode of What If Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper, which is a payoff from what we saw in the previous season when she discovers the Hydra Stomping suit. That it's Steve actually still alive in that suit, but he's being controlled by Hydra. He's the alternate version of the Winter Soldier, which we actually get to see in older Bucky Barnes as a key member of S.H.I.E.L.D. Steve and Peggy get to have moments of what could have been, which I thought was really sweet, but inevitably it goes dark really quick since he's still under the control by Hydra. They find their way over to the Eastern European area, and Rachel Weisz reprises her role from Black Widow as Melina, but due to the circumstances, Steve decides to sacrifice himself, knowing that there's no way he's going to be able to break the bounds of Hydra's mind control. But she still remains determined that he's out there somewhere, but just before she could find a way to find him, she ends up in another variant universe, which leads us into the 1602 episode. Just a sidebar here, I really like what they are doing with Captain Carter. Honestly, I think she should be a prominent figure in the movies, in live action. Hayley Atwell, I think, is very underrated as Peggy Carter. I've seen her shield on display, like a Black Series edition type of shield, on display at my local FYE or GameStop. That should tell you that there's some kind of recognition in the Marvel fan base, that she's actually becoming somewhat prominent. And I think it's safe to say she is the main character. She's basically going through what Captain America went through in the movies. Feels very out of place in the world, she's trying to find somewhere to belong, and throughout the last half of the season, she relies on the Watcher to get her back to her own world. Come to think of it, once I save enough money, I might actually buy that Captain Carter shield, to put it right next to my Captain America shield that I got. But the next episode we get is What If Kahori Reshaped the World, featuring, to my knowledge anyway, completely original characters. Kahori is a Native American woman living in the New World, and when Spanish conquistadors come to her shores to take over her settlement, certain things happen where she goes into the hidden pool inside this cave, going into the heavenly realm of her world, where everybody's at peace and content with not being able to die. They don't want to go back to their world because they feel this is really where they belong. And while she does enjoy it, she can't really shake off the need to go back to her home settlement. This was a very unique and refreshing take on the Marvel Universe, tying into the Tesseract from Asgard, which creates the portal to the heavenly realm in her world. And if anyone who's really down for Native American representation, this is going to be the episode for you. So inevitably, she and the rest of the warriors from the heavenly realm take back their settlement, and they force the Queen of Spain to surrender. But then she gets a visit from the Doctor Strange Supreme. If you've seen the rest of the season, we all know where that goes. Then we get Hela in the next episode. What if she found the 10 rings? Then she finds her way into Ta Lo, which we saw in Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. Basically a retelling of the Ten Rings movie, but with Hela in the mix. And what if she actually used her powers and abilities for good, but instead she actually learns how to embrace the light inside of her, using the light to push away the darkness, getting rid of all of the bitterness she has towards her father, using what she learns in the realm, partnering up with the Ten Rings leader, showing him that she can be merciful towards her opponents. Seeing how evil Hela was in Thor Ragnarok, nothing but an absolute blast during this episode. Maybe I'm too idealistic, but I just like seeing a bad person finding the light inside of themselves. You want to call me too idealistic? Go right ahead. Then we get what's arguably the best episode in the season, and maybe even the entire series so far. What if the Avengers assembled in 1602? The universe that Captain Carter is set in, it's actually on the verge of collapse due to a mysterious visitor that's misplaced out of time. And even though he's able to save Loki, who's an actor in this universe, holding a skull in his hand, very Shakespearean, how cliche, but fails to save his sister Hela from the incursion, so he puts all the blame on Captain Carter and orders a bounty to be put on her head. With the help of Nick Fury and various other people, like Tony Stark, who's a machinist of some kind of like the Doc Brown of the Marvel Universe, basically. Oh my god, I just remembered the episode where he meets the Grandmaster. Oh, okay. Rewind with me here. I wasn't too crazy about that episode, to be honest with you. It was fun, it served its purpose, but I'm honestly not really a fan of that character, the Grandmaster. I like Jeff Goldblum, but that character I don't like. Could have done without that. I did kind of like seeing Tony teaming up with Gamora, and there was some tension there because she was clearly not a good person due to her being brainwashed by her father. But then she learns to let Tony Stark live, and then they actually go to find Thanos and kill him while he's sitting on his throne. I thought the episode was fine, but probably my least favorite. Not a fan of Grandmaster. Back to the 1602 episode. So we see Steve Rogers in this universe, who's basically the Robin Hood of this variant universe, along with Scott Lang, who is Ant-Man in this universe, and they're able to find a way to open the portal and see who this misplaced person is out of time. But I also really like that the Watcher's trying to discourage Peggy from saving this universe because it's meant to be destroyed. And if she were to stop this from happening, it could cause a ripple effect throughout the space-time continuum. And as we all know from various time travel stories and movies, doesn't go so well. She still is determined to save this universe and find out who the misplaced person is. But then we find out it's actually Steve Rogers who accidentally created the anomaly while fighting Thanos in the Infinity War battle. Maybe some people were able to catch on to that before. I didn't. And it wasn't until he was highlighted in green that I went, of course it was him. Oh my god, now I feel like an idiot for not picking up on that. And I absolutely love the reverse nod to Avengers Endgame when he asked Peggy, do you want to tell me about your Steve Rogers? And she says, no, I don't think I will. But then the Strange Supreme shows up, leading us to the finale. He recruits Peggy Carter to go into this one universe where Nazis and Hydra won, when we see a very haunting image of the Red Skull's face on Mount Rushmore. She discovers Kahori, thinking that she's the one causing all this disturbance in the multiverse, but then Peggy, along with us, the audience, realize that Strange is actually manipulating everything, because he's trying to recreate the universe he ended up destroying while trying to save Christine in the last season. It was pretty clear to me that Strange Supreme was up to no good. And eventually it was revealed. I knew something was wrong. He has all these different variant characters locked up in this own little prison, which then goes into this complete chaos of everybody fighting each other out like a battle royale. But during all the chaos, he turns into the evil snake-like monster, and he's practically, I guess, Satan in this universe, since he's blinded by his own hubris to save the love of his life. They manage to save everybody else that's being imprisoned there by sending them back to their home worlds, but then Strange decides at the very last second that he's going to restore his universe, but sacrifice himself in the process, realizing that he's too far gone and that Christine will not accept him in his current state. Maybe if he was just his normal self, she might actually consider, but at this point, no. No way. And I love the way it wraps up, where she's ready to go home, but she wants to take the scenic route, and the Watcher says, You have no idea. More than likely an indication there's going to be more seasons. I've heard at least one more is being considered. Could be wrong, but I think that's what they're talking about. Season 2 was really solid. I was really worried that I was going to walk away from it thinking I had more fun in Season 1 though. But this one, in a lot of ways, is an improvement on the last one. Goes into various places that I didn't realize I wanted to see. I think this might actually be the best handling of the multiverse from the MCU, besides No Way Home and the Loki series. But I really do hope we get a Season 3 because I would love to see what else they could pull from it. If I have any ideas for it, maybe we could get some kind of an alternate look of No Way Home, or what if Captain America recruited Peter Parker instead of Tony Stark? Or maybe even if they did a what if of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. I don't think they're going to go that far, but you never know what they might be able to do. We'll see what happens. Those are my thoughts on Marvel Season 2 of What If. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment below and tell me what your thoughts are on this season if you've seen it. And as always, see you in the next one.